The lights were bright, the applause loud. Mark Wahlberg walked onto the Tonight Show stage with the usual charm. The crowd stood, clapping and cheering. Jimmy Fallon smiled wide, ready to give the audience what they came for: laughs, fun, and celebrity gossip. But something about Mark was different. His smile didn't reach his eyes. His handshake with Fallon was firm but cold. They sat down. Fallon opened with an easy joke about Mark's old music days. So, good vibrations still buzzing, huh? The audience laughed. Mark gave a small smile, but it faded quickly. Fallon tried again, joking about Boston accents and tough guy. Roll still. Mark stayed quiet longer than usual before answering. His tone was calm, but heavy. "You know, Jimmy," he said, leaning forward slightly, "it's funny how everyone expects the same version of me. Same safe stories, same harmless charm. But maybe I'm done playing that version." The audience went silent. Fallon raised his eyebrows, then chuckled nervously. "Come on, man. You sound like you skipped lunch. This is late night. Relax." But Mark didn't laugh. "That's just it," he said. "We all keep pretending this is normal, that we're here just to smile, sell, and shut up. But there's a lot going on behind these smiles, Jimmy. Things no one talks about. Things you know, but never ask about." Now the room was cold. So the cameras kept rolling, but the atmosphere had shifted. Fallon, clearly uncomfortable, tried to switch the topic. "Tell us about your new movie big action scenes, right?" Mark shook his head. "Want? Action," he said. "Here's some real action. People in this industry, the same ones who sit in these chairs, they help bury the truth. Real crimes. International deals that destroy lives. But you don't ask about that? Just keep the jokes coming." Fallon's smile faded. "Mark, buddy, it's a show. It's not supposed to be that serious." "That's the problem," Mark snapped. "It's never serious. Not when it should be. We laugh while others pay the price. And people like you help make sure the truth never gets too loud." There was no laughter now. No clapping. The crowd just stared. Fallon looked off stage, unsure of what to do. Mark slowly unhooked his microphone. "I didn't come here to entertain lies," he said. "If that's what this show is about, I'm out." He stood up, gave a last look to Fallon, and walked off stage without another word. The audience gasped. The camera cut to commercial. Backstage, chaos began. Producers huddled around monitors. One was already on the phone with legal. Another was trying to reach NBC's PR team. Fallon sat still, his hands shaking slightly. Then a young intern whispered to her boss, her face pale. "He wasn't supposed to say that," she said. Yet the producer turned sharply. "What do you mean?" The intern swallowed hard. "He told me yesterday, ... There was a bigger plan, a bigger reveal. Something about files, names, countries, a leak." But he lost patience. Silence. Then the producer whispered back, "If that's true, we're in trouble." That night, the internet exploded. The clip of Mark walking off was shared everywhere. But the full story. That was just beginning. The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, the clip of Mark Wahlberg storming off Jimmy Fallon's set had racked up over 10 million views. News anchors tried to downplay it as a celebrity meltdown. Talk show hosts made jokes. But something about the way Mark had spoken, the tension in his voice, the names he didn't say, left people unsettled. On social media, people weren't laughing. They were asking questions. What was Mark really trying to say? Morning. A second video surfaced. It wasn't from NBC. It was leaked. Someone had uploaded behind-the-scenes footage, raw and unedited. In it, Mark could be seen backstage, his mic still recording as he paced and muttered to himself. "They think I won't say it. They think they can keep pushing this narrative." A voice off-camera asked him to calm down. Mark turned, eyes sharp. "You know, they covered it up. Istanbul, Paraguay, the contracts. We all know. I'm just the first one saying it out loud. The footage ended there, but it was enough. Hashtag Mark Knows and hashtag Fallon cover-up started trending worldwide. People began pulling up past interviews, searching for patterns. One viewer noticed that several actors who had tried to speak about global issues on Fallon's show had been edited out, silenced mid-sentence. In Berlin, a journalist named Lena Drexler sat in a dim newsroom, watching the clip over and over. Her eyes narrowed as Mark said the word Istanbul. That name meant something to her. She clicked open an encrypted file on her laptop. Inside were documents from 3 years ago, a story she had almost published but never could. It was about a young reporter named Ken Yilmaz who had been investigating secret pipeline deals between an American energy firm and several corrupt officials in Turkey and Central Asia. He had disappeared. His death had been ruled a car accident. But Lena had always known it was a lie. Now here was Mark Wahlberg, a Hollywood actor, suddenly mentioning Istanbul on live television. And Fallon had tried to shut him down. She leaned back in her chair. "This isn't a coincidence," she said quietly. "Someone's trying to speak, and someone else is trying to shut him up." She opened her contact list and tapped on a name she hadn't dialed in over a year. Ray Navarro, former CIA analyst turned whistleblower. He picked up on the second ring. "You saw it?" she asked. Ray's voice was low. "Yeah, I saw it. And I know what he's talking about." "What's going on, Ray?" Ray paused. "It's called Operation Bright Star. Started as a military protection deal for an oil pipeline. It's turned into something else. A lot of money, a lot of secrets. And media coverage was ... managed. Fallon's team was part of that." Lena sat up. "Managed how?" "They got access. 2 celebrity interviews early. In exchange, they kept certain topics off the table. Made sure no one went off script. Oh, and Wahlberg just broke that script." "Which means he's in danger," Ray said. "And so are you now." Lena's screen blinked. A message popped up from an anonymous sender. It was a single sentence. "Don't print anything, or he's next." She stared at it, heart pounding. "They're watching," Ray replied. "Then we move fast. You fly to New York. I'll meet you there. Bring everything. We only get one shot to expose this." Lena nodded slowly. Mark hadn't just stormed off a stage. He had kicked open a door no one wanted opened. And now the world was watching. The plane touched down at JFK just after midnight. Rain streaked across the windows as Lena Drexler stepped out of the terminal, carrying nothing but a backpack and a small silver case. Her face was tired but focused. The files inside that case held reports, encrypted flash drives, testimony from dead sources had once been considered too dangerous to publish. Now, they might be her only chance to prove Mark Wahlberg wasn't losing his mind. Ray Navarro was waiting in a black rental car parked 2 blocks away from the arrivals gate. His eyes scanned the crowd constantly. He didn't wave. He just opened the door when Lena approached and said, "No tails. We're good." Inside, Lena buckled. "In? Where are we going?" "Brooklyn. Safe house." "It used to be one of ours," he said, pulling away from the curb. "No signals, no windows. We'll be ghosts for a few hours." The silence between them was heavy until Ray finally spoke. "I watched the Fallon leak 10 times. You know what? Part struck me." Lena looked over. "Which part?" "When Mark said, 'Look at the system.' Not me. That wasn't just emotion. That was a warning." Lena nodded. "He wasn't just angry. He was prepared." Ray drove through the quiet city, passing dark storefronts and wet sidewalks. Finally, they reached a narrow alley in Brooklyn. He parked and led her inside a basement apartment. The lights were dim. The walls were lined with maps, newspaper clippings, and old laptops. Ray poured 2 coffees, then sat across from her. "Let me tell you what Operation Bright Star really is," he said. Lena leaned in. "It started in 2013 as a joint project between a U.S. oil conglomerate, a Turkish military contractor, and a South Asian finance group. Publicly, it was just energy development. Privately, it was weapons transport under pipeline security budgets. The oil was a front. He pulled a manila folder from a drawer and laid it open. Inside were photos of airfields, containers, satellite shots of desert convoys. This is where it gets dirty, he continued. Journalists in Istanbul started poking around. So the firm started buying silence. Media consultants were brought. In Hollywood figures, too, they built a shield, celebrity interviews, scripted late-night shows, fake scandals, all to keep eyes off what was really happening. Lena flipped through the photos, and Fallon's team was part of it. Ray nodded. Not all of them, but his production company took over $6 million in foreign PR contracts, buried in ad buys, partnerships, consulting fees. And the interviews. They weren't just jokes. They were timed distractions. Lena sat back, absorbing the weight of it all. So when Mark snapped on Fallon's show, it wasn't a meltdown, it was a breach. Ray pulled out a flash drive, and now that breach is open. This has Mark's name flagged in an internal memo, dated 2 weeks before the interview. The memo says, monitor exposure, contain deviation. Neutralize if necessary. Lena's eyes widened. Neutralize. Ray nodded grimly. It doesn't always mean violence, but sometimes it does. There was a knock at the door. Both of them froze. Ray reached under the table and pulled out a small pistol. Lena grabbed the silver case. The knock came again, sharper this time. Ray crept to the peephole, then sighed. He opened the door to a tall woman in a soaked coat. Her face was familiar. Mark's assistant, Ray said. She stepped inside. Quickly, he sent me, she said. He's in Iceland off-grid, but he said you'd be putting the pieces together. Lena stepped forward. Why did he do it? Why now? The assistant pulled out a folded letter. Because he found something. Death certificate. A boy from Kazakhstan, killed during protests near the pipeline sites. His mother sent Mark a letter, photos, and a USB with files. He's been digging ever since, quietly. But when he found out Fallon's team was linked, he snapped. Ray looked at Lena. He didn't just walk off that set. He lit the fuse. Lena opened the letter. Inside was a photo of the Bueno, older than 15, lying in a dirt street. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was the logo of the security firm tied to Brightstar. Lena's voice shook. We have enough to publish. Okay, maybe not to win, but to force the world to look. Ray nodded. Then we move fast, before someone makes us disappear too. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the storm was just beginning. By the next morning, Lena and Ray were already moving. They left the Brooklyn safe house before sunrise and headed to a small office space owned by an independent journalist collective in Lower Manhattan. It was quiet, no signs, no logos, just an old building with locked doors and people who knew how to vanish when needed. Inside, Lena connected her laptop to a secure server. She uploaded everything: the Istanbul files, Ray's classified memos, and the death certificate from Kazakhstan. The screen filled with names, dates, contracts, and redacted communications. Ray stood behind her, arms crossed. Now we need something else, he said. Proof that this reached U.S. media hands. We know Fallon's show was part of the cover. We just need the connection in writing. Lena glanced at him. We already have the Fallon file, don't we? Ray didn't answer at first. Then he nodded slowly. There's a folder, a restricted archive kept on Fallon's network. I accessed it once before I left the agency, but it's not on the public servers. You'd need someone inside. Lena closed her laptop and stood. Then we find someone. They met him that afternoon, a junior producer named Theo, barely 30, sweating in a cafe booth near 6th Avenue. He looked terrified. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. He made us sign silence waivers. We weren't even allowed to ask questions about certain guests. Ray slid a burner phone across the table. We don't need everything, just the Fallon file. Internal notes, guest restrictions, any proof the show was filtering political content. Theo hesitated. If they catch me, you've seen the clip. Lena cut in. Mark's not crazy. This is bigger than ratings. People are dead. Theo wiped his hands on his jeans, then nodded. Give me 24 hours. That night, Lena stayed up scanning old interview transcripts. The same pattern appeared again and again. High-profile guests would begin discussing foreign policy, corruption, or international deals, and then the segment would abruptly shift. Laughter, a skit, a game, the serious questions vanished. 3:11 a.m., her laptop pinged. Incoming file, fallonfile.zip. She opened it carefully. Inside were thousands of internal memos. Avoid direct questioning about Turkish infrastructure deals. Red flag. Guest redacted wants to speak about pipeline protest, footage delay, or re-edit. Coordinate guest tone with federal. Guidelines. Comedy priority. Distraction metrics must stay above 80%. Then came the shocker. An email dated 6 days before Wahlberg's appearance. It was from a private intelligence consultant to Fallon's executive producer. Subject: Mark. Wahlberg deviation threat. Body: there is a high probability Mr. Wahlberg intends to use the interview to challenge ISIC operations. Pre-screen his team. If deviation occurs, redirect or terminate. Legal and PR must be alerted. Lena stared at the name. ISAC. The same codename Ray had mentioned. The hidden network of corporate and political figures running the Bright Star cover-up. She turned the laptop toward Ray. This is it. Ray nodded grimly. They knew, and they planned to silence him. Just then, Lena's phone buzzed. Unknown number. One sentence. Your window just closed. Ray's face went pale. We need to leave now. Lena grabbed her case, laptop still warm from the download. As they reached the street, they saw two black SUVs parked across from the cafe. Men in dark jackets. Stepped out, Ray grabbed her arm. Subway. Now. They sprinted down the steps into the station. Behind them, footsteps echoed. Lena's heart pounded. They jumped onto the train just as the doors closed. Through the window, she saw one of the men staring directly at her. No badge, no words, just a silent warning. As the train pulled into the tunnel, Ray turned to her. We're not journalists anymore, Lena. She nodded. We're witnesses. And from now on, everyone watching late-night comedy would have to wonder how much of it was scripted. And who was writing the script? The safe house in Queens was colder than the one in Brooklyn. No heat, no signal, no electronics except a single wired laptop and a burner phone duct taped to the wall. Ray called it the last stop. Lena called it what it was, a bunker. For truth, no one wanted out. For 2 straight days, they stayed underground. Outside, the world was spinning. News outlets debated Mark Wahlberg's mental state. Late-night hosts mocked his meltdown. Politicians stayed silent. But online, something was shifting. Hashtags like #FallonFile, #Wahlberg warnings, and #IsaacLeak climbed the trending lists in dozens of countries. Independent journalists, YouTubers, and former intelligence officers began piecing the puzzle together. A storm was coming. Then came. The message, it wasn't a call or a video, was a short, encrypted live stream link. Sent from an anonymous Icelandic IP. Ray decrypted it. On screen, Mark Wahlberg appeared unshaven, in a hooded coat, standing in front of a snowy mountain. Range, no Hollywood lighting, no makeup. Just a single camera and eyes that looked directly into the soul of the viewer. I know they'll try to bury this, but not before I speak. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't blink. And what he said next peeled back everything Lena and Ray had been chasing. 2 years ago, I received a letter from a woman in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Her son was 15. He died during a protest near a Bright Star construction site. Official story, stray bullet. Truth, he filmed something he shouldn't have. Mark held up a small photo, the same one Lena had seen in the letter back in Brooklyn. She sent me files. Videos, maps, emails. She said her son believed someone in Hollywood was involved in hiding the truth. Mark's voice dropped lower. At first, I thought it was madness, but then I found it. Proof that a private intelligence fundi SAAC was paying for media silence. Fallon's team, studio heads, even actors. I'd followed the trail, and it led to people I once called friends. He took a breath. I was told to stay quiet. I didn't. That's why I left that stage. The feed glitched. The screen cut to black. Then came one last line of text. This is not about me. This is about the war you never saw. The stream ended. Ray stared at the screen. He's naming it. A war hidden behind oil, contracts, comedy, and spin. Lena whispered. He just gave us global proof. Not just U.S. corruption. This reaches Europe, Central Asia, the Middle East. Ray nodded. And Fallon's show was the firewall, a platform that made pain funny. A shield with a smile. That night, Lena published the first wave of her report through a coalition of journalists across 12 countries. It wasn't just about Mark anymore. The document showed corporate boardrooms in L.A. approving payments to media executives for narrative control. U.S. senators connected to Brightstar profits through offshore companies. Celebrities signing NDAs that restricted them from speaking on international issues. And ISA, a Sion invisible force behind multiple regime changes disguised as investment projects. In Turkey, riots broke out near old Brightstar facilities. In Germany, a member of parliament demanded immediate sanctions. In Washington, an emergency closed-door hearing was scheduled. But it wasn't just political. By morning, Fallon's show had been suspended pending internal review. His executive producer resigned. One former staffer went missing. Another posted a cryptic message. They told us to keep the show light so no one noticed the darkness behind it. Back in the safe house, Lena refreshed the feed. Her story had gone live in 32 languages. Ray turned on the radio and old shortwave. Set buried in a metal box. A BBC voice came through the static. Tonight, questions are being raised about long-standing media relationships with intelligence-backed corporate partners. The focus is now on the ISAC fund, and what many are calling the greatest media political cover-up since Watergate. ... Lena leaned back in her chair, breathing deeply. I can't take it back now, she said. Ray looked at her. They'll try. But this time, she said, the world is watching. The newsroom at Al Jazeera London was buzzing phones, ringing editors shouting across glass walls, analysts refreshing feeds. A decision had been made. They were going to air the Fallon Fallout, a 90-minute global special built from Lena's files, Rhee's testimony, and Wahlberg's Icelandic broadcast. It would air live in full. On every regional stream, the network controlled, uncut, unfiltered, uncensored. The countdown had begun. Lena sat in the studio's underground media bay, reviewing the footage for the final time. Clips of Fallon laughing with politicians who were now under investigation. Mark's full backstage audio, no longer redacted. Satellite footage of Brightstar. Compounds in war zones labeled as energy hubs. Testimonies from Turkish and Kazakh civilians. It was all there. And now it would reach the world. Ray stood near the edit desk, speaking quietly to a producer. Got confirmation? The story's picked up by Deutsche, CBC, and even NHK in Tokyo. We go live in 8 hours. But just as they locked the file for air, the screen blinked. Incoming message from Legal Affairs Qatar HQ subject, immediate hold on isolated content. Lena's face drained. What is this? She said, opening the full memo. Ray read over her shoulder. The message was clear. Per urgent request from allied diplomatic channels and regional compliance officers, all investigative programming related to a Fallon file, Wahlberg testimony. and Brightstar must be reviewed at the highest level before broadcast. Do not proceed without authorization. Lena slammed the desk. They got to them. Ray was already dialing. They're applying state pressure, intelligence from the US or UK. Maybe both. They know once this airs, it can't be buried. Again, within minutes, the head of programming appeared in person. He closed the edit room door quietly. I want you both to listen carefully, he said. This story is real. We believe it. But we are being told that airing it now without delay or revision could be considered a violation of several bilateral media agreements. Lena stood. You mean a violation of power? The man didn't deny it. We've been warned. If we air this now, all Al Jazeera bureaus in the US and UK could be shut down within days. Ray stepped forward. You have proof. You have witnesses. If you back down now, you'll be another part of the silence. The editor sighed. Then find me a way around the wall. Do it fast. We have 6 hours. Lena and Ray raced back to a small off-grid signal relay in Soho, an old pirate radio site turned encrypted server room. If they couldn't use the studio, they'd go around it. They connected with a collective of digital activist scoters, streamers, anonymous whistleblowers. One of them, voice scrambled, face hidden typed. We'll mirror the broadcast on over 200 independent platforms. Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa. Second you hit send, it's everywhere. Lena hesitated. Once it's out, we can't protect anyone. Ray looked at her. We've already crossed that line. They uploaded the full file, locked it, and scheduled the release for 8 p.m. GMT, exactly when Al Jazeera had originally planned to air it. In Washington, intelligence officials scrambled. A classified briefing was called in the West Wing. The NSA confirmed that Wahlberg's satellite upload had been backed by leaked agency software. Proof that someone inside the system was helping him. In Istanbul, a protest camp formed outside, a former Brightstar site. One woman held up a sign. Mark Wahlberg spoke. Who's next? In LA, Jimmy Fallon canceled his next 2 tapings. His lawyers issued a single line to the press. Mr. Fallon has no comment at this time. At exactly 8 p.m., the broadcast began. It didn't come from Al Jazeera. It came from everywhere. YouTube, Telegram, Twitch, Reddit streams, Mirror. News sites, even LED projectors beamed onto buildings. The world watched as Lena's voice narrated the opening line. What happens when laughter becomes the curtain behind which corruption hides? Footage played of Fallon laughing with politicians under indictment. Then came Mark's full walk-off. Then the Fallon file. ICAC, the bodies, the bribes, the truth. By 9:30 p.m., over 160 million people had seen the stream. In Nairobi, journalists gathered at midnight to plan their own local investigations. In Paris, government officials demanded a public audit of all international energy contracts linked to Assad in the U.S. The White House press secretary was cornered in a late-night briefing. Is this government involved in suppressing media that challenges its foreign interests? She refused to answer. Back in the signal room, Lena watched the numbers rise. Ray sat beside her, silent, until finally he whispered, "We didn't need permission. We just needed courage." Lena turned to him. "And now?" He looked straight, ahead. "Now we wait to see who runs and who stands up." The world was no longer laughing. The game had changed. And the truth was no longer in their hands. It was in everyone's. The silence after the storm was deafening. It had been 48 hours since the global release of the Fallon fallout. It's 200 million views. 41 countries responding. Protests, hearings, arrests. Whistleblowers coming forward. Celebrities deleting tweets or issuing vague apologies. Media giants scrambling to review editorial practices. But behind closed doors, the real war was just beginning. In Washington, D.C., 3 senators were under investigation. One fled to Zurich, Another blamed foreign interference. The third simply vanished last seen boarding a private jet to the Cayman Islands. At NBC headquarters. Internal documents leaked by a rogue IT worker revealed what the Fallon file hinted at: a hidden content management directive from a private security contractor embedded in late-night media. Its name appeared at Ghana Isa, not a company, not a government agency, something else, something in between. In London, Lena Drexler stood before the House of Commons Media Committee, answering questions with steel in her voice. She didn't dress like a hero. No makeup, no polish. Just a gray coat and tired eyes. But when she spoke, people listened. "We didn't expose a conspiracy," she said. "We exposed a pattern of silence. Of pretending the world is fine as long as the lights stay on, the cameras roll, and no one asks who's behind the curtain." Her words trended worldwide. The hashtag who writes the script became the new rally cry. But not everyone celebrated. Ray Navarro was gone. After the final stream, he vanished from the Soho server room. Lena found only a USB on the desk. No note, no message. Just a folder marked exit_7. Inside were classified documents, military transfers, ISA-AC black funds, psychological warfare memos, and one file labeled Operation Night Laughter. It detailed an experiment: use of celebrity media to redirect public attention during periods of political unrest. Initial test site: late-night television. Target demographic: distracted voters. Outcome: highly effective. She stared at the screen for hours. The horror wasn't in what they did. It was in how easy it had been. In Istanbul, the mother of the boy from Almaty released a video. Her face was aged, her voice soft. "My son died with a camera in his hand. They tried to erase him, but now, you see, now you remember." Mark Wahlberg remained in hiding. But one photo surfaced blurry, long distance. Him in a fishing boat, beard grown, eyes distant. Not a fugitive, not a rebel. Just a man who broke a script and paid the price. That night, Jimmy Fallon returned to television. But it wasn't comedy. He sat in silence for nearly a minute before speaking. His eyes were glassy. "I never asked," he said. "I was told not to. Keep it light, keep it moving. I did. And now, I don't know what I was part of." He paused. "To Mark, to the boy's mother, to the people who trusted this show to tell the truth, I failed. I didn't protect you. I helped hide you." Some said it was a PR stunt. Some said it was too late. But others heard something real by morning. One final leak hit the internet audio recording from inside ISAC's Manhattan satellite office. The voice was clear. "The media firewall has collapsed. They're not laughing anymore. Phase 2 will require more visible methods." Lena played the clip 3 times, then deleted it from her device. The world had changed, but it hadn't been saved. Not yet. She stared out her apartment window, watching a protest build outside a streaming network building. Young people holding signs, chanting. "Not angry, awake," she whispered to herself. "Let them try to write a new script." And with that, she opened her laptop again. The truth was no longer something you buried. It was something you broadcast. And this time, the world wasn't changing the channel.